Hey there, this is B. Wendy Jackson. I wanted to quickly interrupt you before you listen to the next episode. Listen, thank you for your support with the podcast. Those of you who've been following me since January 2020, I really appreciate you. I want to hear from you. You can send me a message at info@AAOP as in Paul, C as in Charlie, S as in Snake.net. I would love to hear from you. Also, if you have not rated and reviewed the podcast, would you do that for me, please? It also allows people to find the podcast. This is growing. The podcast is growing, and I'm so excited. I've had to update my little commercial because my name has changed and my website has changed in terms of where you receive the books. So if you have not purchased your books, I got the opportunity and the gift to write two books. The first one is Empowerment for You, Encouragement for Your Emotional and Spiritual Wellness. Listen, I love this book. It is definitely a book that invites you to experience hope, help, and healing. And every page, every chapter is really filled with insight, information, and inspiration to be able to help empower you, to be able to help you walk in freedom. I include specific practical tips to help you take charge and take possession of your thoughts and really just control your behaviors or impact your behaviors and impact some changes in your life, cause some changes in your life. And then the second book is Empower to Empower You Reflection Workbook. Love this book as well because it's based on specific podcast episodes where you listen to some episodes and you are able to dive deep into some reflection. I give you some prompts so that you don't have to wonder or think about, well, how do I start to reflect? What do I even write? The prompts are already provided for you. Isn't that awesome? So there are also blank pages for you to journal or whatever you want to do, right? And so I just invite you. You can go on Amazon and just look for B. Wendy. So I don't want to cause any confusion. My maiden name is Bob. So people have known me as B. Wendy Bob for so long. And then July 2022, I was blessed to be married. And so now I'm B. Wendy Jackson. So Amazon, you could just search for the books B. Wendy Bob, and you will find those two books come up. If you have any questions, you could email me. You can also find the resources on my website, AAOPCS.net. That's AAO, P as in Paul, C as in Charlie, S as in Snake.net. Listen, I look forward to hearing from you. May the the books continue to add value to your lives. I'm really thankful for this opportunity to just encourage people all around the world. All right. Enjoy the next episode and have an amazing day on purpose. Well, hello, everyone. This is B. Wendy Jackson coming again with another episode of the Empower to Empower You podcast. I am so glad to be back here again. If you are joining for the first time, tuning in for the first time, welcome, welcome, welcome. Empower to Empower You podcast is about all things Jesus Christ, mental health, anything to add value to your lives to help you become the better version of yourself. Listen, if you've been following with me since January 2020, thank you, thank you, thank you to those of you who have shared an episode with somebody or rated the podcast or reviewed it. Thank you so much for doing that. I am so excited today. I'm always excited, y'all. Every time I come up here, I say I'm excited, but that's the truth, right? So I am excited, though, for real, because I get to have a dynamic guest named Brenda Reed Pilcher. Let me tell you a little bit about Brenda. Listen, she is a proud native Arkansan. I may be saying that wrong because I'm from the Caribbean. Arkansan, Arkansas, she's going to say it, right? But she has a passion for life and laughter. Brenda enjoys traveling. She enjoys her family. She enjoys health. She enjoys pouring into other parents, pouring into educators, and enjoys conducting parenting seminars. Teaching was her career choice, but consulting was her destiny. Earlier in her career, she matriculated from the classroom to make her mark in educational instructional technology with an industry leader, Compass Learning Incorporated. During her 17 years tenure, Brenda began her life work empowering parents. Brenda there's so much to say about her. She is a senior consultant, and after retiring is now, as of 2022, a published author of the book Parenting Like a Pro. So I'm just so glad to have Brenda here to share all things parenting. Listen, if parents need a book, this is the resource that they need to be consulting. So welcome, Brenda, to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, ma'am. I am so honored to have you. In fact, I was thinking about, man, I just met you at an author booking event at Brown Baptist. I forgot the date, but we just two weeks ago.
Yeah, just 2 weeks ago.
Yes, ma'am. And here you are on the podcast. So thank you so much for saying yes. There's so much to say about you. You come with a wealth of experience, a wealth of resources. And I love that you say you want to be remembered as a person who is passionate. So tell us a little bit about, what are you most proud of at this stage of your life?
The thing I'm most proud of at this stage in my life, there are several things, but it starts with my faith walk. I'm just so glad that I've chosen Jesus as my Savior.
Yes.
I mean that with my whole heart. And I'm also proud that I introduced my children to Christ at a very early age. They are young adults now.
Yes.
I have a daughter who's an attorney for the Air Force, and she has great faith. My son lives in Atlanta, and he is a high school football coach and a U.S. history teacher.
Right.
So he followed in his mother's footsteps. So I'm so proud of them and the choices that they've made and their relationship with Christ. I'm proud of my 35-year marriage to Henry Pilcher III. You met him at the book signing event.
Yes.
So he's my ride or die. He missed church so he could be there at that book signing, and he doesn't like to miss church.
Wow.
So
wow.
That said a lot. But those are some of the things I'm most proud of. And I'm really proud of the career choices that I've made. I retired in 2020 and wrote the book, but I worked in education for 40 years. Wow. I'm a 40-year educator.
Thank you for your service.
Yes, I started working in education in 1980, the year that I graduated from the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. And it's the Arkansan is how you pronounce that. But anyway, you're from the Caribbean. People in the United States can't get it right. So don't feel bad.
Thank you for your grace. I knew I messed that up.
You are so welcome. You are so welcome.
I have to say this. Thank you for your service to be an educator for 40 years. That is amazing. Tell us a little bit about, where does your passion for parenting come from?
Well, initially, I think when I think about it, I had great parents. I was raised in a 2-parent household. Both my parents were entrepreneurs, and they encouraged us. There were 6 of us. I'm the last of 6. And they encouraged us to, have our own stuff. They encouraged us to get an education. Then, I did for my children what my mother did for me, and that is introduced me to Christ at an early age. So I'm just so, when it comes to parenting, I just have a heart for it. And then, as an educator, I was, interacting with parents about their children. And then I got into the consulting part of it. I only stayed in the classroom for a short while. I've consulted for 36 of my 40 years. But I just had a heart for it. And when I saw that parents wanted to do better, once they learned better, it just made me want to do more for them. Even though I love teaching teachers, and that's what I did most of my career, I'm an education consultant. I was really teaching teachers how to use technology in their classrooms once I left the classroom as a classroom teacher. But when I work with parents, it's just a whole different atmosphere, the atmosphere of wanting to know better and do better. So I think just working with them for so long, and when you are able to do something you love, it's not a cliche. You don't feel like you're working. And that's how I felt.
Yeah, your career your ministry, your career is your ministry, and you love to serve. Definitely, I can
Yes.
say that. So just through your voice as you're speaking about this, I mean, you love what you do. You're
Yes.
says that we will lead or walk worthy of the calling to which we have been called. And Colossians 3:23 says, work as unto the Lord, work as if God is our
Yes.
boss, right? So
Yes.
there should be a love and a passion for what we do, and to not endure it, but to enjoy what we do.
Yes. And
Absolutely.
I taught that to my kids. I said, whatever you do something that you love. Don't do it for the money. Do it because you love it. And I
Mm,
just believe that people live longer and have healthier lives when they work in an industry that they love. Because to me, going to work every day on a job that you hate, I always told the kids it's like dying a slow death. And because I know people who hate what they do. And
absolutely.
it's like so sad. I'm like, oh my goodness.
Way to live. Thank you so much. I'm excited just by you saying, I hear the legacy, right? Thank you, Lord, that you had parents who poured into you, who
Yes.
molded you, who prepared you to be the parent that you are. But the most important gift that they gave you was the gift of accepting Christ as your Lord and personal Savior.
Yes.
I think about, I have a 4-year-old, and I'm thinking, I don't really care whether he becomes a doctor or a lawyer. I mean, I do, but
Yes.
what I really care about is when he comes and says, Mom, Dad, I want to have Jesus in my life. I
Yes.
want to be baptized. That is the most important thing.
Yes. That
That
was the most
happened.
important thing for
Yeah,
me as well. But keep the main thing the main thing.
thing.
And
Yes,
that is the main thing.
absolutely. So in everything that you've done, I mean, it sounds like you've been busy.
Oh, I've been busy. I've been working since 1980, which is the year I graduated. I went into the classroom and taught for 4 years, but I've never not worked for those entire 40 years, except when I had my two children. I think I took off for like the 12 weeks that they give you,
Mm,
so, and I breastfed for the 12 weeks, and then I was back at work. So I've never not worked. I've never been laid off. I've never been fired. I've always been employed. And when I retired in 2020, I didn't see myself not doing anything. And the book is a 20-year dream deferred that came to fruition
I can't wait to
during
talk
the
about the book.
pandemic.
I can't wait to talk about the book. What I
Yeah,
do
so
have
I
to do.
knew I was going, and that was a job, and I knew it was because I'd done the research. I've known other authors, and if you really want it to be successful, you have to treat it like a business. So I've been an entrepreneur before, like 10 years of my career. I had my own consulting service, so I know what it takes to have your own stuff and be your own boss, and the discipline that it takes. And I wasn't ready to sit down. And when I decided to leave my company, I knew God spoke to me. I was on the Zoom with HR, and he spoke to me because they gave me some options. I didn't have to leave. I was given options, and he spoke to me. Now is the time to write your book. And
Mm,
even though I didn't share that with them right then, I knew the option that I was going to take it was leaving at that point.
yeah, yeah. I can't wait to dive into the book. Let's, talk a little bit about, as a busy mom, leader of influence, how did you, or what are some things that you practiced to make sure that you were balancing parenting with the job demands, with the expectation? Of course, teaching is a lot different now than it was back
Mhm.
then, but there's still expectations. How did you balance that?
Well, I was blessed because I didn't have the kids until I started consulting. So when I was in the classroom in Arkansas,
Mm,
I was a single person. Um, the company that I joined relocated me to Memphis. So
mm,
that's how I got here. The company relocated me here. And so I was in the consulting field, and it's a different industry. I had office days because we have to go into the schools and do trainings with the teachers. So I wasn't in the school the whole time the teachers were there. I had my appointments, and, sometimes I may work 4 hours in a school, I may work 6 hours in a school, and then I had an office. So I would have office days. So I took my kids to school every day, and I picked them up. They had their activities. They're very active. I took Kelsey to dance. I took Henry Frank. We call him Henry Frank because he's the fourth. Uh, took Henry Frank to his soccer and then football, and now he's coaching football. So it was consistency.
Yes.
And I always put my kids on a schedule. I did not overschedule them. I had them to choose one thing because education was first. So I let them choose one thing. So in his early years, he chose soccer. When he got tired of soccer, he wanted to do football, but he could not do both at the same time. And I also taught my kids to finish what you start. You can't start soccer and I paid the fee. And then you decide you don't want to do it. So, you're gonna have to at least finish the season.
Yeah.
You don't have to keep doing it, but you have to finish the season. So they balancing it to me had to do with consistency, being intentional. I could visualize what I wanted my family to look like before I had a family. I kind of knew, and so God just really blessed me to be able to implement a lot of the ideas that I had as a mom. But I think it's being intentional, having a plan. And because I was in the education field, I knew a lot already about reading with the kids and getting them to fall in love with books and all of that kind of stuff, taking them to live performances. And so I knew a lot because of the field that I'm in.
That makes
as
sense.
an educator. So that helped a lot. But the consistency part and the intentional part is I think that's how I was successful as a parent, as a busy parent.
I hear you. What I'm hearing you say is the three key things: routine, intentionality, and consistency.
Yes.
Right? And I love that you said that because I see so many parents whose lives are governed by these crazy schedules. Like all the kids have 5 activities. They're going from taekwondo to ballet, from ballet to basketball.
Exactly.
And it's just too much.
It's too much. And what in my head, when you overschedule your children, you're allowing other people to raise them.
Absolutely.
Because you're not even spending quality time with them. When are you going to have time with them if they're, at this activity and this sport and this dance and all of this stuff? So they were always busy. And I don't think they were ever not in an activity, but they had to choose.
Good.
And so they got exposure to a lot of things. And I was just intentional in the fact that I didn't want them to spend more time with other people than they did with me.
Yes. I see a lot of activities too are taken away. They don't value that Sundays are the days to go to church.
Yes.
A lot of activities are having activities on Sundays. And so families are having to struggle, with not being involved in their church community because this other thing is a priority. And so that's a common problem as well.
It is. And so you have to decide. But a lot of the activities they were involved in took place at the church. I was actually volunteered as the children's director for 12 years at my church so that I could be with my kids and I could, plan the activities because I was all about quality. I didn't want my kids to do activities for the sake of being in an activity. If it wasn't something that was going to, benefit them and help them to grow and learn and stretch and just be a positive activity, I didn't participate in it. So I knew if I was over it, it was going to have all the things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I also hear, there's a space for boundary setting, right?
Yes.
And also there are parents who want to live their lives through their children.
Yes.
because it's a pride thing, because unfortunately children become idols. Like they
Yes,
all about this kid. Look how I'm good as a parent because look
yes,
how good my kid is doing, and
that's
so
true. That's
I'm
true.
seeing things and I'm like, okay, we got to put some things in place to make sure that that doesn't happen to our family.
Exactly. Exactly.
Let's dive into your book. I can't wait to hear about Parent Like a Pro. I just love the name. And so tell us a little bit about your book. Tell us the heart behind it. I know you said it was a 20-year dream deferred. I can't wait to hear about that. Will you tell
Oh
us?
my goodness. When I started working with parents, and I say 20, but it was really longer than that. Because when I started working with parents, um, I was probably into it 7 or 8 years or so, and I loved it so much. And I was just learning so much from the parents. You learn a lot when you're teaching. You learn a lot from your students, and they were my students, and I learned a lot from parents and grandparents. I met there were so many grandparents attending my seminars because of different reasons. Sometimes it was because their children were working, and sometimes it was drug addiction. There were all kind of things, but I knew all those years ago that I would write the book, and God just put it on my heart, and He would always remind me, even though it took all these years for it to come to fruition. He would remind me throughout my career, "You're going to write this book." So it was always in the back of my mind, and I always knew. So I felt once I started writing during the pandemic, which was, I don't think I could have done it had it not been for the pandemic, because I was not ready to retire. First of all, I loved my job. I was traveling, the kids are grown and they're gone. And I was, not just travel locally, I was traveling internationally. And so it was a wonderful experience, and I wasn't ready to give it up. But once I saw that how that pandemic was affecting all this education and travel and all of this, I really didn't want to do it anymore. And he just reminded me, "You have something else to do.
Mm.
It's time for you to write the book." So I sat down in the chair and I disciplined myself during that pandemic, and I outlined my chapters,
Yeah.
things that I've been teaching. My book chapters are the same seminar topics that I taught for over 30 years.
Isn't that
These are
amazing?
things that I know.
Yes.
And I always tell people, you write about what you know about.
Yes.
And two things I know is parenting and education.
Yeah.
And so it's a very highly educational book.
Yeah.
Uh,
Mhm.
the title is Parent Like a Pro, the one-stop shop playbook
Mm.
of tips, strategies, and real life episodes. So I
Mm.
actually talk about some things that my husband and I did with the kids, and how our family life, and how we engaged with our family, and just the schedules that we had and the routines that we put in place, and all of that is in the book. So it was written to be a blessing to parents, to empower them, uh, and not just the home, but the entire community.
Yes.
Because I believe that a lot of the things that we're seeing in society today stems from the home.
Yes.
When the home is intact, when the home is doing well, society does well,
Yes, ma'am.
and vice versa. When your home is, in disarray, and there are, no rules and no morals and no schedules, that pours into society. I
Yeah.
mean, what we see in society is coming from the home.
What do you want parents to have as takeaways from the book? If you could just kind of share a few, what do you hope for parents to gain?
Well, a couple of things I want parents to know is that you don't have to be perfect.
Mm.
There are no perfect parents. I
Yeah.
am not by any means a perfect parent. And I just want to really clarify, the Parent Like a Pro is not to say that I'm a professional at parenting. It really, the title really stems from the fact that when I think about all the other professions like doctors and lawyers and accountants and all of these people, they have a playbook. They have a manual, they have a guide. And so I wanted really to write the first manual for parents. It's the first playbook. And I wanted them to have a guide, so to speak. And the way I wrote it, it's written for the everyday parent. It is in layman terms. It's easy to implement strategies and tips. And that's kind of how I conducted my seminars. So I kind of wrote the book the way I'm just accustomed to dealing with parents, and they appreciate that. It doesn't have to be complicated. There's some simple things that we can do. But what I want parents to take away is that you don't have to be perfect. And I also want parents to know that love is not enough.
Yes.
That's a strong statement, but loving your kids is not enough. You're going to have to teach them something. You're going to have to learn some parenting skills. And parenting is a skill just like any other skill, and it must be practiced. And so, and you're not alone. I want parents to know that you're not alone. And there are resources. There are, find someone who's on the right track that you want to emulate. You might say, well, I like the way she, handles her children, and I like the path that her children are on, and how she interacts with them, and get to know parents. Find out from those parents, what do you do? How do you make it work? And just build a community and get to know other parents and read. Reading.
Where would parents begin? Two things I want to say, Brenda. Thank you for your obedience to this book. And I'm sure I could just hear some parents saying, where have you been all my life?
Oh, goodness.
But where would parents begin? When you say find, parents do need to feel validated. Every child, you can have 4 kids and each child is different. Each child comes with different ways of learning, different behaviors, different ways of even feeling loved or expressing love or language, everything, challenges, right?
Yes.
Where would parents begin to find communities like that?
Now, this is how I did it.
Yeah.
When my kids started school, like preschool, not kindergarten, but we're talking preschool, I would always pay attention to parents. When I attended a parent meeting or they had something for the parents to come to the school, I always paid attention to the parents. And then I talked to my children about the kids. What about so-and-so? And they always come home and report who got in trouble. And who did well, and I like so-and-so. And I always ask them, why do you like her? Why do you like him? And so I wanted them to be thinkers, and, I wanted them to pick good friends. I talked to my kids about it. You don't pick someone who's getting in trouble every day and sitting in the corner, on punishment.
Right.
To be your best friend and to come for no sleepover until your birthday party. We're not. So I talked to them about it. And I don't think it's ever too early, but I paid attention to the parents and so my kids helped me to pick the parents based upon their reports, the things that they shared with me that was going on in the classroom. And so I connected with those parents. So it started at the school. And then, when you have like-minded people and you kind of find out, what kind of person they are and how they're, kind of raising their children in similar ways that you are.
Yes.
Then we start doing things outside the school. But I always found my parent friends at the school, at the meetings, and I paid attention and I listened to what my kids said about other kids.
Yeah.
So, it's very simple. That's how I started. And then you'll be surprised, if it's meant to be. I'm still friends with some of those parents from elementary school. Wow. Our kids may not have continued to be friends. They went to different colleges and went their separate ways, but I still have friends that I met back in when my kids were in preschool and elementary school.
If you could just take a moment, parents are listening to you right now. And we're going to talk about how they can get your book, because every person needs to get that book, right? I can't wait to, I have so many books to read, Lord, have mercy. But I'm reading a book right now on preventing burnout as a therapist in private practice.
Oh, that sounds appropriate.
Yes, but I can't. I have a list of books to read, and yours will be on that list for sure.
I
But
appreciate
if
that.
absolutely, parents are listening to you and they're saying, "But Brenda, you don't know my kid. You know, they're hopeless, they despondent, they are just in a really bad shape." What would you say to that parent who feels like I've tried everything? I don't know what to do. I'm at a loss of words. I am struggling. I don't know if your book will help me. They're maybe on the fence of even getting your book. Sometimes what they're looking for may be in your book, but they're so despondent that they just feel exhausted. What would you say to that parent today?
Well, I would say that it is true that it takes a village.
Mm.
It takes a village to raise a child. And so you're not alone. And I think that parents need to look at the resources that are around them and utilize resources, whether that be in your church, whether
Yes.
that be in your school, whether that be in your community. You know,
Mhm.
there may be someone in your right down the street who may maybe their kids are grown and they're away from home that would love to spend time with your children. So
Mhm.
you need to get to know your village, get
Mhm.
to know your village, and don't be afraid to ask for help.
That's the key right there. That's the
Yes, don't
Mhm.
be afraid to ask for help. And I wrote the book for everyday parents so that it's an easy read. It is nonfiction, it's a nonfiction narrative. And the table of contents to me is a good place to start because there's a different topic. There are 14 chapters, and
Mhm.
every chapter deals with a different area of parenting. And so rather than sitting down reading a book from start to finish the way you would a fictional novel, you
Yeah,
look at the table of contents. And if you're having difficulty, maybe your children are experiencing peer pressure, then you go to that chapter.
I love it. Okay.
Maybe you know, your children are needing help with reading, maybe they don't love to read, you go to that chapter. Maybe I have a chapter on how to raise critical thinkers.
Hmm.
I mean, you know, your 4-year-old can
Yes.
be a critical thinker and be learning to think critically right now.
Yes.
And there's some strategies and tips in the book to help you get started. And
Mhm.
also the things that I try to convey to parents, make it fun.
Yes.
And so if you make it fun, kids will learn. If you make reading fun, kids will learn to love books.
Mhm.
If you make math fun, kids will fall in love with math.
Yes.
And I have a whole chapter on math, a whole chapter on writing. You know, writing is a lost art in the schools.
Mm.
So it is going to be imperative that parents practice writing at home with their children. Otherwise, we're going to raise children that don't know how to write.
Sign their names in cursive.
Exactly. And you know, the computer is good, but you still need to know how to write.
Absolutely.
And many professions require some kind of writing.
Mhm.
So, you know, even
Mhm.
if you're typing it up on the computer, you still need to know how to put together a sentence.
Oh, sure. Do you
So,
have anything in your book? Does your book speak to parents who have kids who maybe learn differently or have some special education needs or things like that?
well, no, no, not necessarily, but I do have some information on how to um where's that chapter, helping children be successful in school.
Love it. Yeah,
Yeah,
that applies to
so
all kids. You
how
know.
do you get kids to be successful in school? And there's, you know, there's a rhyme and reason to it. You know,
Mhm.
all kids are not just going to start school and soar. You know,
Mhm.
you have to do some things. There's
Yeah.
some things that you can do at home. And that's one of the things that I've always shared with parents and grandparents. It's what you do at home that's going to make the difference. Because when
Yeah.
you think about it, all those kids are sitting in that classroom with that same teacher, learning the same thing. But what you do at home is going to allow your children to raise that step above. So
Mhm.
school doesn't end when the bell rings.
Yes,
When they
that's
get home, what you do at your home should be an extension of what they learned at school.
Yes.
And your
Yes.
home should be an environment of learning. And
Mhm.
kids love that. They want to learn.
Yes, they do.
So if you make it fun, they'll want to learn.
Mhm.
And they want, they don't complain about doing homework. My kids never complained about doing homework. Sometimes I wanted to complain,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I didn't let them hear me because they had so much. But when they become accustomed to that, they're learning and growing more. And when you think about, they're going to be competing against those same boys and girls in that classroom.
Yes.
They're going to all grow up to be adults together. And your kids are going to be a step above because they spent more time learning. Don't
Mhm.
turn learning off when the bell rings at the end of the school day.
It's good. Well, this is such an enriching conversation. Now, as we wrap up, Brenda, you know,
Mhm.
tell us, where can people find your book? And then I want to ask you about your parenting seminars as well, and we'll go
Okay.
from there.
Okay, well, the book, Parent Like a Pro, can be found on Amazon.com. You can search Brenda Reed Pilcher or search Parent Like a Pro, it'll pop up. It's also at Novel Memphis Bookstore. So it could be found at Novel Memphis Bookstore. And also, just I want to encourage listeners to follow me on Facebook at Brenda Reed Pilcher and Instagram at Brenda Reed Pilcher, because that's where I post what I'm doing and where I'm going to be, for my book signings, my book events. I am working on a second project. It is a companion journal to go along with the book, because I really feel strongly that reading and writing go together, and we're able to internalize more when we write.
That
And
is so.
so it gives parents a safe place to really document their successes and their challenges. And it goes along with the book. So it's
Yeah.
a companion journal. That's what I'm working on currently. They can find out, the progress I'm making with that project via my Facebook and my Instagram on social media. So
I can't wait to hear about that. Now, you also are, Brenda you can also you provide parenting seminars. You are looking for booking, you're available for booking assignments for parenting seminars. Can you talk a little bit?
yes, for not only schools but churches as well. And I didn't mention this, but my book is built on Christian principles.
Good.
I end every chapter, and I am going to put I wish I had put my book in your hands before the interview, but
Oh,
like you said, we just met like
yeah.
2 weeks. And I mean, I just fell in love with you that day. And then when
Thank
you
you.
told me your name was B Wendy, I'm like, B what? That was the cutest name.
Thank
And
you.
it was just a pleasant meeting, and just you have such a wonderful, positive spirit about you. And so I feel honored to be here. And then when I started listening to the podcast, I mean, I just loved your interviews. Those are
Thank
some of
you.
my favorites. And
Yeah.
I loved your other podcasts, but the interviews were my favorites.
Thank you. I'm so glad to hear that. I'm so glad to hear
Yes.
that. Well, you will be joining the list of amazing guests that I have. I cannot wait to broadcast this, and I'm so excited. Well, listen, I can't wait to also, I would love to even attend one of your parenting seminars, so we'll talk about that offline. Um,
Yes.
yes. Is there anything else that I didn't ask you, Brenda, that you feel passionate, it's like in your belly, like fire, that you want to share?
Well, I'm just so grateful to God for allowing this book to come to fruition after all those years. And I'm still in awe that I've written and published. I self-published my book, and it was a journey. We have to talk about that offline. It was
I didn't get
it
myself.
was not easy. I don't
I
want
didn't
people to think
self-publish.
that it is easy to self-publish. And plus, that was not my intent. So I
Sure,
actually started
sure,
with a publisher. But
sure.
anyway, I ended up having to teach myself
Mm,
how to self-publish. And I'm very proud of the fact that I not only wrote the book, but it is self-published. I just want people to never give up on their dreams. If this can come to fruition for me, if there's something that you've been wanting to do, just pray about it and never let go of your faith. And like I told you earlier, God spoke to me throughout these years, just, tapping me on the shoulder. Don't forget about your book. Don't forget about your book. So I was reminded that I'm going to write this book. I never forgot about it. It's always been in the back of my mind. And then when the pandemic hit, I did not, I hated what happened in the pandemic for so many, but it was a blessing for so many. And then when we were at the event at Brown Baptist, the book signing, many of those authors shared with me that they wrote their book during the pandemic.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So, some good came out of it.
I wrote mine in 2021, right after. Yeah, it was still happening, but 2021 for sure.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I am so honored to have met you. I'm so honored to have you here. People can listen to this. The beautiful thing about a podcast is this knowledge is here forever. Like people can listen to this over and over and over again. So I want y'all to really, those of you who are listening, please share this episode. It's going to be live soon. When you hear it, we will already be in March. Perfect timing for things to blossom. And Brenda is blossoming. This is a new season. This is her season. I have the scripture here. Perhaps this is the moment for which you have been created. Esther 4:14. This is the moment. This is your moment. And so
thank you so much.
Absolutely. Go to her web. I'm going to put all this on the show notes. Go to Amazon.
Yes, BrendaReedPilcher.com. www.BrendaReedPilcher.com is my website.
Great. Awesome. Well, Brenda, thank you so much for joining the podcast today, and I'll be in touch with you. And y'all, thank you for tuning in. Listen, maybe you feel like you have what you need and you do parent like a pro, or maybe you've already gotten this resource, but you know a parent. Every one of us, we know a parent who needs this resource. Don't wait for us to see if they're struggling to give them the book. Gift them the book anyway. Maybe pass it as a gift to another parent, because every parent can benefit, whether your child is 1 or 18. Get this book for sure.
Right. All right. And I'm glad you said that, because it really was written for parents with preschool students all the way through high school. There's something in it for everyone.
Great.
Preschool through high school.
Awesome. All right, y'all. This is Wendy Jackson. I'll be back next time with another amazing episode. Have a wonderful day on purpose. Thank you.